Happy Hump Day.
Hey, Tracy. Happy Hump Day. How are you?
I'm good. Really good. I could talk about what I did. This is the most amazing thing, but I could talk about the whole podcast, which was being an extra on a movie set. And I can't tell you the details. I have to kill you.
Oh, right. Okay.
But it was
happens on movie set, stays on movie set, right?
Yeah, what happens on movie sets stays on movie sets. It was a Hollywood-esque budget. So people will be in the movie, producing the movie, directing the movie. That's all I'm going to say.
How cool. And did you meet anybody?
Oh, so many people. Yeah.
I mean, famous people.
Well, I
breathe the same air as them.
We're breathing in the same air within like 10 meters. Yes. Because I actually talk to them directly.
Cool.
No, we don't.
That is cool.
You don't talk. You don't talk to the actors. You got to know your place in the food chain, which is down.
Okay, hang on. So did you get told this explicitly?
No, it's like an unspoken rule. Actually, we did get told. We did get told a bit of etiquette. You don't go. No selfies, no taking videos or photos there. No talking to the actors. You've got to be quiet as well. No chatty, because there's nothing worse than it, just have their own conversations while things are going on. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit of a
sounds like you really know your place. That's
good. Oh yeah, totally. But I just loved it. It was so fascinating how they. And I remember they got I called it the sexy camera. Got the sexy camera out because there was often swapping cameras depending on the type of footage. And the sexy camera is it comes out on a crane. So camera in the crane. The crane's really, really, really high. I can't remember what it's called. It's a massive thing, and it's just so high in the air. And it's like I call it a sexy camera, and it can go kind of like lower really quick to zoom in and pan up and. Anyway, I was just like, oh my God. And the special effects with like little explosions coming off walls, and it was amazing.
So is that an action movie, this one?
Yes, it was an action movie. That I was nodding, but I tell you what was funny. I told my mum, and they're like all excited, like I'm literally, an actress in a movie. I'm like, Mum, I'm cut out. You'd be lucky if you see me in the background. I might even get cut out.
Yeah, I mean, they cut a lot of scenes, don't they?
They do. And plus, I wouldn't get a credit anyway. I'd just be like passerby number 2. Passerby. I wouldn't even be passerby number 2. You don't get a credit.
You don't get a credit.
But apparently I can't remember, there's a type of extra that gets a credit. So if you get a part, like you get killed or you have a line, then you get a credit.
Yeah. Cool. So when you were in the movie, were you allowed to make a noise, or is that all like added on after?
Oh no, there's no noise.
Oh, so you just have to act without noise, making
pretty
noise.
Much. I'm like running. Yeah, there's no screaming or anything like that. I had to run. Let's just say that I had to run for my life, for fear of my life,
but no screaming.
No.
That's pretty. I once worked with a guy that he was doing acting, but he also picked up extra work to make extra money. And he said that he was told to say, like, not say, but mime the word cabbages. Like if you're in the background, it's because you can just keep repeating it. It sounds like, it looks like you're saying something. So there's a top tip for you for next time.
Next time, I'll just keep miming cabbages. It's so funny. Yeah. There's a lot of fun.
Good. Sounds like fun.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
All right. Shall I get stuck into the story?
Let's get started. I've got a story here from The Guardian, written by a lady called Kelly Burke. And the title is Artist Behind Mona Ladies Only Lounge. That's a mouthful. Absolutely delighted man is suing for gender discrimination. So that's the headline. And I'll just give you a bit of background about what's happening here. So there's an artist, a lady called Kirsha, has an art installation called the Ladies' Lounge at the Museum of Old and New Modern Art, which is Mona in Hobart. And she's been subject to the formal anti-discrimination claim made by a man called Jason Lu. So her art installation allows women entry to be pampered by male butlers and serve champagne while being surrounded by some of the museum's finest pieces, and I believe some famous pieces by well-known artists such as Picasso. So, it's a decent installation that she's doing in quite a prestigious museum down in Hobart. And Jason Lu he was denied entry into the ladies' lounge, and that this is gender discrimination, which he believes is in violation of Tasmania's Anti-Discrimination Act. And Kershaw, in her defence, has emphasised that historically discrimination against women has, occurred, and is arguing that men's now experiencing this rejection in the form of her artwork. So she's saying her installation and the rejection is the artwork. So that's kind of her defense and what she's taking to that tribunal hearing. She was inspired to do this art installation because she experienced that same rejection when she was visiting a pub with a female friend, and they were advised by male patrons to retire to the ladies' lounge because it would make everybody feel more comfortable if they were to do that. And she said that, that's kind of her background and inspiration, and her art installation is about having men experience that same rejection. The museum has faced many complaints. I think she was saying a file full of complaints over the ladies' lounge, but Jason Lu is the only one that's taken that formally and wants to kind of proceed with some kind of legal action, I guess. The Mona's legal team will rely on the tribunal's interpretation of Tasmania's Anti-Discrimination Act, specifically on promoting equal opportunity for disadvantaged groups. So there is like a section in the Act apparently that allows this kind of, a ladies' lounge or a men's lounge or that kind of thing, if it's promoting equal opportunity. So if it's trying to do something good, I guess, for a disadvantaged group. So she's claiming that, women are traditional disadvantaged groups, and that's what her art installation is expressing. And the tribunal is expected to hand down its decision within a month. We still don't know what the outcome is of it all.
That'd be interesting, right?
Yes, it's
I
really
love that.
powerful, this one.
I really love that
me
she's
too.
done that, because people don't know what it feels like if you're not subjected to it.
Yeah.
And I felt, tell you how many times, for so many different reasons, I felt uncomfortable being in a space because it was obvious that either I wasn't welcome or I was an oddity.
Yeah.
And you never know which one it is necessarily, unless people are overtly or tell you, which very rarely doesn't. They're not that direct this day and age. Some are, obviously, like her experience, they were quite direct. We'd be more comfortable if you went to the ladies' lounge. Well, that's more direct. Whereas I've often felt that, it's like an oddity, or I shouldn't be here, or I'm not welcome here for different reasons.
Yes. I know what you mean. I'll just talk about an experience that I had not that long ago. I went to Milan with a friend, and she is very, very confident, right? And she was saying to me how she'd really wanted this handbag, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let's go to the shop now. And she, it was she was after a very specific color in the range. And I said, well, let's look up the shop, looked it up, and we went and found the shop. Very high-end designer shop. The handbag was, I think it was in the range of about 5,000 euros. That's almost 10,000.
It's a luxury handbag.
That is high, super high-end, right?
Yeah.
But we hadn't been planning on going to do this trip.
They weren't dressed
shop.
Luxury.
We weren't dressed appropriately. We were in daggy clothing. We were just tourists in Milan for the day, really. Let's go and have a look. Yeah, we'll go to the shop. And I was blown away that her level of confidence overpowered any kind of feeling that we weren't like in the right place. So that it was a real eye-opener to me, because she didn't care. Like, she absolutely didn't care that we were in this beautiful shop and, you know, beautiful salespeople, and because of her confidence, they didn't seem to care either. Like, it didn't feel like, if I had walked into that shop by myself, I would have felt completely I would have just done a U-turn and walked straight back out again and wouldn't have even talked to anybody. But she had them kind of running around, getting different bags, you know, different colors, you know. So, and she, I mean, she didn't buy the bag in the end, but it was a real kind of like, yeah, light bulb moment for me that maybe we should just be a lot more confident when we don't feel that we're in the right place.
Absolutely.
Confidence
I mean, to be honest, I've had to do that. So it's the only way I could move through the uncomfortableness of the situation. So I've learned to do that, or to appear it anyway on the surface.
Yeah, on the surface.
On the surface. So I've learned to do that. But there's different aspects. It could be that it's in my head and there's the people in that environment are not actually doing anything or behaving in a way to make me feel uncomfortable. Or it could be that they are, like they're ignoring me and just not even making eye contact. Or if you're in the shop, they're not even asking if you need help, or explicitly just ignoring you. Yeah. Or looking at you disapprovingly or whatever, or looking at you like you're going to steal something, you know, like suspicious of you. So unless they're behaving in a way, but even if they were, imagine you had that confidence anyway. You know, so a lot of it is here, and it can depend on your environment, but it would be good if it didn't, despite. But then you heard that story about Oprah when she was in Europe, went to Paris, went to luxury, and they wouldn't sell her, they wouldn't serve her because she was Black. I don't know if you heard about that.
I think I did. Was it a while ago now?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah. I think I did. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty shameful, that is. Yeah.
But I mean, how can you?
But anybody,
anyway,
doesn't matter.
They've got the money.
You want to buy, yeah. And at the end of the day, shops there, you know, they quite happily let other people in to browse, even if you're not coming to buy.
Yeah.
You know, that's what shops, you know, a lot of people go just window shopping, don't they? So
I prefer to shop when I can actually buy if I want to buy.
Same.
You know what I mean?
Same. Just depressing, just looking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't have the time either.
Didn't have the time.
But yeah, getting back to the story, I like as well that she's at the end of the article. So she's saying that the complainant, Jason Lu, the decision to pursue the museum through the tribunal didn't seem vexatious, and he's not seeking compensation. It seems that Mr. Lu and his complaint are genuine. He wants everyone to be allowed entry. But if Mona agreed to that, it would fundamentally undermine the work.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, that Jason Lu is legitimately saying there are some important pieces of art I paid my entry ticket. I should be allowed to see everything in the museum.
Absolutely. And you get where he's coming from. He also is missing the point of the exhibition. But yeah, I get where he's coming from. You know, you pay a ticket, you don't expect to be omitted from any of the art. It seems unfair. But that's only if you're thinking like this, bigger picture. It's a bigger statement there, isn't it? It's not just the surface of it. There's a bigger thing. But I think it's great that it's going to court, because it gets a conversation, it gets press.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that installation will do really well, even better than it is now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I really like this piece. I think, like you say, it's great. It's getting some publicity. It's a nice way to approach this topic of discrimination, of gender discrimination. So a different way to approach it, and it's a nice way to see like artists getting involved in promoting the discussion of this topic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love, basically, it's a creative way to challenge injustice and rather than just talking about it. And I like, not that, we do just talk about it, but you know what I mean? Beyond that, I love the creativity. And actually, it reminds me, I just went to see Banksy's exhibition in Sydney. So Banksy has an exhibition, and I love his work, especially the work that does, challenge our thinking and our behavior towards the world, towards people. I love that. And some of his pieces I just love because that's exactly what they do. They can be very confronting if you see beyond the surface of, oh, that's nice. Or it might even not be nice. But like this is the one with the girl, the child with the balloon with the heart shape going. And my favourite piece is the one with two policemen snogging. That's my favourite one. Two male policemen snogging. That's my favourite, especially when it came out. But anyway, talk about that all the time. But it's a creative way to make a statement or raise awareness on injustice. I would say injustice. So anyway,
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, very good.
Very good. I guess my next story. This story I wanted to talk about, although actually I'm thinking it's actually not. It's not that real. It's not actually count, but I'll just make it count. That's fine. That's fine. You're like, what are you on about, Tracy?
Yeah.
Well, today is when we're recording it, not when it's going out. Anything. So it's International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination today. And I wish discrimination was just, ancient history, like something that was long in the past, like a rotary phone from those phones you have to go. And did you ever use one of those phones? When you
go like that?
You have to like do the number and it goes round like a house.
Yeah. Yes, we used to have one of those. Absolutely.
Like ancient history. You don't see those anymore. And I really wish discrimination was like that, right? But it isn't. And still isn't. Like growing up, we both experienced it. For me, I don't know about for you. For me, it's like I'm not black enough or I'm not white enough. And lots of things happen. But it's more like microaggressions now. And say microaggressions, it's like more subtle, covertly implied ignorance is what I'm more used to these days.
You can't live in Italy.
But you can't let that stop you getting on with your life. You can't let that hold you back. And for some people it does, because it can be taxing, and it can be, for some people, it can really screw them over, let's just say. So I just know this was a day, like I guess the United Nations have all these days. I think it's great that they have one. And the theme of this year is recognition, justice and development. And it's specifically about people of African descent. And then it talks about racial discrimination for people of African descent being a relic of slavery and colonialism, but still today robs people, billions of people, of their rights and freedoms. So I chose this story, but this story is actually about an Indian man in Australia. That's same difference as far as I'm concerned. So, and because one of the things I feel, and is reported, is that immigrants that are all immigrants try to blend in to their new culture. They adopt behavior, ways of saying things, sometimes on purpose, sometimes unintentional. Like I remember in the UK, I would never say something was awesome. It just wouldn't be language that I used in describing something. Whereas now, that's all I say. It's very Australian and American. Oh, so awesome. I would never say that before. It would sound too American to me, too foreign to say that.
Yeah, it's just not the British way, is it? That is.
It's not the British way. Well, the point I'm making is you do adopt these local idiosyncrasies and ways of talking. And for immigrants, especially people of colour, it tends to be more on purpose and more extreme. And this man, so this story is from SBS, and the title is, As a Brown Man in Ballet, I Learned the Joy of Standing Out. So this is a 30-year-old brown man learning ballet. And he has one hand on the bar and his feet in the first position, and he's ready to prove his past self wrong. That's what he says in the article. So early in the year, and this is from, well, when was this? Oh, this is from last year. He took on a new hobby in his 30s, and you could hear his past self say, isn't this a little pretentious? And this is him doing ballet, learning ballet for the first time. But what's this story about is how he's always tried to blend in, because he moved to Australia from Mumbai in 2018, eager to embrace a new way of living. But it's important to blend into the Australian culture, so being accepted. And he said, this means doing violence to the world afternoon until it becomes Arvo. This Arvo. This Arvo.
Arvo, yeah.
So that's another word I would never have said before I lived here.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And for the others, it involves replacing morning chai with a flat white. But over the years, I've realized one thing: no amount of flat whites could dilute my Indianness. In fact, the more I blend in, the more I stand to lose my individuality. This is when I began giving myself permission to point my toes and learn to stand out. So this guy obviously danced hip hop as well. He sees people. He was obviously doing hip hop like as a dance in the studio, and he sees people galloping, gliding, and waltzing, and he's mesmerized. So he's into dancing. So he signed up for ballet, and there he is, the only brown and male person in the class, apparently.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So that's the thing, the only. Being the only is when you feel uncomfortable. And maybe people make you feel uncomfortable as well. So, and talk about earlier about being an oddity.
Yeah.
And let's be fair, so other people, it is straight. It's not something they see all the time. So, but it's whether what they do with that makes a difference. So he decided that he wouldn't hold him back from living fully. And so he says, living as an immigrant has taught me is that there's beauty in sticking out. I've slowly learned to become more comfortable with inhabiting spaces where most people didn't look like me. His morning runs out in the eastern suburbs, when he goes to a local pool, he's been practicing this over the last few years. And while it can feel uncomfortable to be the odd one out in a room, I know it's a sign of strength to not shy away from taking up space. So getting the confidence to do that is the other thing. What else does he say? He says, looking back, every decision I've made to step outside of my comfort zone in the past 5 years has led me to the ballet studio. While I may fall time and again doing a pirouette, I know that one day I will stick that landing. And when that happens, watch me as I chasse towards my next challenge.
Yeah. I think
that's all about it.
It's interesting because he's experiencing now as an immigrant, because he moved to Australia later in his life. So he's experiencing this feeling of being an outsider now that we would have been experiencing when we were little. And obviously we've become accustomed to it over time. And like he's saying, you have to learn to feel comfortable with being different and not, otherwise you do lose your individualism. Yeah, so it is interesting, like listening to his little story, like his story and his journey and the thought process going. Because I'm thinking, yeah, that is kind of how I probably experienced it, but much younger as a child growing up, and and then having to fight. And that journey took me a lot longer, I think, because when you're a child, you're a lot more influenced by things, aren't you? But yeah, it takes you a while to understand that being different doesn't mean that you're less. It can be that you're at least equal, or if not more.
Yeah. And that's the problem. Depending on how you're received, it's so easy to take on board that message that you are less. Or at least you're
Yeah.
thought of as less. I guess something I struggled with growing up quite a bit.
Tracy, think about it when we grew up in the UK. Think about the people that were on TV and the representation that we were seeing. We weren't seeing anybody like us. I mean, the only person I can think of really, and that was maybe later on, was maybe Lenny Henry.
Oh, on British television itself.
Yeah,
not
on British
American.
television. Yeah, on British television.
Lenny
the type of
Henry
television that we
was the only black man that I ever remember seeing on TV as a child. It's a British television, not American.
yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Oprah, but she was obviously American.
Yeah, American. Moira Stewart.
The Trisha show.
Yeah, she was later though, like
But
in
she
her
was a lot
teens,
later.
wasn't she?
Yeah.
So like when we were younger, really truly younger, there wasn't a lot of representation. And even then, it was all very kind of stiff, if you remember. It's not just like about being black. In the UK, there was a large section of the community that was actually not represented on TV because it was all like, very well spoken,
You didn't get regional accents.
People with money, you could tell they came from money, it was all of that kind of, that was what people were seeing. So now representation is more broad and it should hopefully give people who are different, should allow them to have more confidence to continue to be an individual.
Yeah. Have you ever had any of your white friends feel uncomfortable because they've happened to be in a place where they're the odd one out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And because when I visited South Africa with an ex-boyfriend, my family took him to a soccer match and he was like the only white face there because, in South Africa, the white community there tend to lean more towards rugby and the black community more towards soccer. And he said he felt really, really uncomfortable because it was like the first time it's ever been in that situation, really, Yeah.
I know it's part to say that. And I just want to go, now you know how I felt for many, many times.
My whole life.
Yeah, my whole life. Now you know how it feels. And what makes that experience better for you? And I would say what makes that experience better for me in any situation is when somebody's come and welcomed me and tried and attempted to make me feel like it's good that I'm there or I should be there or they're happy to see me there.
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference if people want to know what they can do in that situation. Yeah. But I always just found it interesting that some people go through the whole life and not have that experience.
Feeling. Yeah. Yeah. I told you I went to Switzerland a few weeks ago and got invited to this. It's supposed to be the most prestigious golf course in Switzerland. Went to their annual gala dinner with my friends. And I was obviously thinking I'm going to be the only person of color there. But that I've gotten used to that now. But to go to somewhere like Switzerland, the most prestigious, a ball, you're in a very specific environment now, aren't you? And when I got there, I'm with my friends. I'm not feeling too uncomfortable. But I saw a black lady there, another black lady. And it all of a sudden, really lowered my anxiety. Yeah. All of a sudden I felt, and we kind of made eye contact and we smiled at one another.
I always want to run over to people when I see them.
Well, I did kind of feel like I wanted to go talk to her, but I thought, no, the eye contact and the smile are enough to kind of, she was making me feel welcome, I guess. And she looked like she belonged there. I don't know, but I definitely felt like I was just a visitor. But yeah, it is really interesting that even now, in so very specific scenarios, in environments, you kind of do feel like, okay. Yeah. I'm not in an environment that I feel very comfortable in.
Yeah. And I'm sure some white people do experience that in certain contexts. Just not as often.
Not maybe a racial context, but in
another racial context. A class context, money, wealth context. Yeah, exactly. Usually, but everybody's subjected to that anyway. But anyway, oh gosh, we need to move on. Ooh,
Yes, let's get on with it. So I'm going to finish up with a story. It's a sports story from The Guardian, again, from a guy called Mike Hittner. And this is about the young Matilda's player, Grace Wilson. She is their goalkeeper. And she has shared that she is non-binary and has kind of made that open and public. She's the first professional footballer in Australia to do this and to come out as non-binary. And, you know, in a really positive way, the other players on the team have welcomed this announcement and cheered and applauded her. You know, she said that she feels that's a really lovely thing. She felt really comfortable and supported, and it's probably one of the best feelings. So it's kind of like what we've just been talking about, isn't it? Just feeling like you can be yourself and be welcomed and respected for that.
yeah.
Wilson is a bright talent and was last month selected for the squad. And she's saying her perception of gender does not fit into the Western standards of men and women, and that finally making the announcement has been a huge relief for her. You don't realize how much of a difference it makes being referred to as they, them for the first time. It's given me a euphoric feeling. I just wanted to be free. There may be other players in ALW who identify as non-binary, but Wilson is the first to come out publicly. And then in the LW league, there's Darcy Vestio, I don't know how to say that name, Vestio, and Tori Rose Little also came out as non-binary in 2021. The Adelaide United star has been vocal in championing for gender equality in the past and was supportive of men's player Joss Cavallo in 2021, who came out, becoming the only openly gay man playing in any top flight at the game.
Just think it's a bit crazy that coming out is and being the only, you know, homosexual athlete is a thing still. It's a big deal now in this day and age. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it just goes to show you that there's obviously not a feeling of comfort there for them to want to do that. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I'm not saying that if you're gay, you have to come out, but yeah, you know, look, you think about the work that we did. We knew lots of, you know, gay men in and around the work that we did, and didn't seem like it needed to be hidden.
It didn't need to be declared either. It wasn't.
No,
But it wasn't hidden
either. But yeah, hidden. Yeah, and so yeah, it does go to show you that within some sports there is that feeling of there isn't that feeling of safety, maybe being able to come out. Yeah. So Adelaide United Football Club said they are proud to be at the forefront of this movement, championing equality both on and off the pitch. We stand behind Grace wholeheartedly and commend her bravery for sharing her authentic self. So it's really great that the club as well kind of stood behind her and made a statement about that. And hopefully that means that other players, younger or older or whatever, can also feel that, you know, they can express what they might feel they want to express about their gender.
Yeah, definitely. I just think this is all good. It doesn't harm anyone. I just, I try to think of people's objections to this, and unless it's because they're xenophobic, I don't understand. I don't even understand xenophobia anyway, but I wouldn't understand why you could have a problem with it, really.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I think it's really brave for her as well, because she announced that just after she got selected for the Matildas squad. You know, the Matildas are going from strength to strength. They're a high-profile team now since performing so well at the World Cup last year. Yeah, so I think it's really brave that she's kind of put that line in the sand in her announcement.
It is brave, and we'll just see how she goes and what happens with others, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Matildas are pretty, I think they're quite a strong team in terms of they've also fought for gender equality in other ways, like with their gender pay gap. They fought for equal pay did you see the video that they did before the World Cup last year when they were, where they had, there was kind of a bit of a rally to push FIFA to
level out the pay.
Yes. It's not the amount that the players are getting paid, but for the actual competition, what winnings
The
they would
winnings,
be awarded. Yes, yeah. And like I think it was some staggeringly stupid amount that it's only like 7% or something, or
It was a stupid amount of money.
less than 10% of what the men get for their World Cup competition, even though there were like record turnouts and crowds and everything. I was in the UK last year when the women's football was on, and everybody was watching it. The stadiums all looked packed. So it just seemed really strange that there's such a maybe there's always going to be a gap, right? Because the men's World Cup is huge, and I'm sure that the TV rights and everything, they're selling globally. The money that they get from the men's World Cup is probably astronomical. It is shocking, the current difference in terms of the competition or the prize money that the women are getting versus the men. But they did anyway. Look it up because they did a really nice video. The Matildas.
No, I did hear about it. It was on social media, I think. I did hear about it. I should talk about this pay gap quickly there. I was involved in an interesting discussion the other day where there was a lady who, I'll just say, she's an expert on the workforce. She has a recruitment company. And she was talking about workforce in general and pay and salary. And then she also was talking about the recent gender pay disparity and the big report that came out in Australia that we talked about on the last podcast.
Last one, yeah.
Yeah. So she was talking about that. And then the guys, and there's mostly guys in this audience, by the way. And the guys are, is that really true? Like, is that still really a thing? Women really get paid less? And why? Like he couldn't believe it, on this question. And I was just like, he thought and then there was a lot of talk about whether these numbers were really accurate and a true reflection. I don't know. I'm obviously very biased in my perception. For sure I am. I'll put my hand up. But the numbers speak for themselves. And even if the numbers aren't, I think it's a complex issue. I don't think it's very black and white. And one of the things they were talking about was how women so this was the thing that got me. Women are caring for children, taking time out of work, about to earn less because they're taking time out of work. So they're losing that experience that men would keep gaining. That's basically the argument that they were saying why there's a gap, right? That's what they were saying. And I was like, well, to an extent you have a point, but if your experience has not changed really, it's just your time. People can be in job for years and not gain more skills. Yeah. You know what I mean? There could be, there is people like that aren't interested in developing and just want to do their job. And yes, they've done it for 10 years, but that doesn't mean they've got more experience or have grown in that time. So I don't necessarily think that we should have a rule then, or you've been out of work 2 years, 3 years, however, 1 year. Like 1 year should not make that significant difference to your salary. No. So that was the part of the discussion. That is part of it, the women that do step out of the workforce because of caring. That does happen, but I don't think the discrepancy should be so big, and you should have the opportunity to make it up. But apparently, that time out, the number at the end when you retire is staggering. Like, the monetary deficit is staggering. So that was one thing. What was the other thing got me a little bit about that conversation? Or whether or not, women get offered less money. And that's more complicated as well, because some women don't negotiate, don't push, don't ask for pay rises. So that's a responsibility. But the question is, why don't they? And that's where I go with my coaching. What are the beliefs? What are the attitudes where they don't do that? That's my thing. That's where I want to make a difference. But also, you're an employer. You've got a budget for salary. And then you've got two people, really well experienced. You want to offer it to both of them. And you offer this person, I'd say it's making numbers. Say it's 100, you've got 150,000 salary budget, and this guy asks for 120, you give it him. This person asks for 100, you give it to them. Let's just say that person's a woman. And the discrepancy is the salary they're coming from. So let's say you move companies, you always get asked what salary you were on or what you're expecting. But if they've already been disadvantaged the salary because they took time out or because they've been discriminated against, then you can never catch up. You lose the opportunity.
You're always going to be behind.
You're always on the back foot. And that to me is unfair.
Yeah.
That part is unfair, I personally believe. So I don't think you should be able to ask what salaries people were on previously. And I think, we women and everybody should do the research on what's a reasonable market value, market salary, and ask for it. I think you should be asking for what you want, not being told what you can have based on what you were paid in the company across the road. Because that's where a lot of the disparity comes. So I know it's not straightforward, but it does happen. And I like the fact that we've got more of a torch on it now, because then people can make changes and be aware. Yeah. Anyway, I just had to get off my chest because that was a discussion and you just reminded me of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complex issue, isn't it? And it's probably going to take a generation at least to get a real proper shift towards, because for me, it starts way back from when you're a child, how girls and boys are treated differently, in terms of girls tend to be protected a little bit more and boys are allowed to do adventurous stuff and dangerous things that and get pushed, and it's acceptable for. So right from there, if girls are being kind of treated in a way that they're, protected and meek and that's kind of the behavior that you can start to express. And you can be thankful for whatever you get given, as opposed to, being bold and reaching beyond, reaching and pushing yourself. So I think it's going to take a generation for it really to, maybe longer, I don't know, to have some real effect, because as parenting techniques have changed and people understand a little bit better now about.
And that's why I love what I do, because I want to help people understand where things like that come from. It's not like a biological of women were born to be carers, and I don't believe that. I believe some women, that's what they want to do and that's okay. But I don't believe it's so what's the word? Slanted? Not slanted, but you know what I mean? Such a huge thing. I just think it's how we've been molded. Even men's attitudes towards women has been molded.
You see your mom being the carer, so then you're programming yourself. So that's also, so I think maybe some of it's to do with that. It'd be interesting to see what happens in families where the roles are switched. To see how, how that affects the generation down. Is it then that a male child would then feel that they are supposed to be the carer? Maybe just kind of, because there's so many things that we learn.
And the culture is so widespread in many countries. But I wonder, for places like Sweden, where it's very common for men to also take time out for parental leave, quite significant amount of time as well. I wonder what it's like there, where they do. That's quite common, because it's not as common here that a man might take 2 weeks off, but as opposed to 6 months or a year or whatever. So I wonder, but anyway, it's where it comes from. You've got to go back, my friend, to understand why we have the situation we have today.
But the data is the data, and I think what we talked about last week, I said it was a really good article. I think it was from The Guardian, and it really did kind of explain the data. It's not skewed in any way. It is actually, they broke it down really nicely. So
and gave some of the reasons, and some of the genuine reasons, like women taking time out of work. All right. Oh, have we got time? Well, let's do what would you do? Probably over time, but
let's do it quickly. Yes.
What would you do? I guess so. What would you do? Don't know which now. Maybe I just made one up in my head. What would you do if you went to an event with a white friend? Maybe it's a cultural event, and they felt really uncomfortable because they were the only white person, or very few white people there, and they were telling you, I really don't like this, I'm uncomfortable, and everybody's staring at me, and I want to go home.
Yeah. So suck it up. No, just actually, there is a thing here, because some nationalities do have a tendency to stare and make you feel uncomfortable. So that could be actually very genuine, you know, where if I were with a white friend and they are being made to feel uncomfortable because people are staring at them, then yeah, I'd probably feel uncomfortable for them, that it's not a very nice environment. But yeah, I mean, I would probably want to understand, is it like, are they like, to what level of discomfort? Is it just like, oh, I'm not feeling very comfortable? Or is it like, oh, this is actually creating me a lot of anxiety and making me feel panicky? Or, you know, if it's actually genuinely affecting them, then I would say, okay, yeah, let's get out of here and find something else to do.
Yeah.
But if it's just because they're not used to that and, you know, they're feeling uncomfortable for no real, genuine, you know, their safety's not at risk, and, you know, nothing's bad's going to happen, or then I'd probably like, okay, let's just stick it out for a little bit longer, and hopefully the room or the people, it will get used to you being here and it won't be such a big deal.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I remember going to a cultural event, let's say it's an African cultural event, and I remember seeing some friends brought their partners, white partners, and I remember hearing some black person say, what are they doing with that person? What are they doing bringing that person here? So I have seen it, and I can imagine that could happen. It's,
Yeah,
I call it like, what's racism? But
racism goes both, you know,
goes both ways,
doesn't it? So yeah,
goes in both directions,
and it's all wrong.
And it's all wrong. Yeah, well, I'd say it's wrong. I can't stand it in any form on any side. But yeah, it just makes me angry. But anyway,
well, yeah, because it just perpetuates itself, doesn't it? Like, you can't expect to receive equality if you don't also give it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
Perpetuates that.
Yeah. So what would you do in that situation?
Oh, do what you do. I would be thinking, oh my God, I would be thinking what I said earlier. I'd be thinking, welcome to my life. I'd be thinking that, but then honestly, you know, a good friend, I wouldn't want them to be uncomfortable. I'd maybe try, unless I observed it myself, like, you know, or, you know, I would want to know what it was. I'd get them to be specific about what was making them feel uncomfortable, so I could establish whether there was a genuine, they had like genuine concerns, or was it all in their head and just because they're in a situation where they'd not experienced before.
Yeah.
And I'd probably what I would try and do is minimize their feelings of uncomfortableness by by getting involved in
encouraging them.
Encouraging them. Getting involved in conversation with people there and see how that goes. Friendly people.
Yeah.
So they could feel a bit more welcome and comfortable. I would do what I could to make them feel more comfortable. And if that didn't work, then I would leave. That's probably what I would do.
Very good.
But interesting that that happens to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, very good. All right, better wrap up. It's a bit late.
Right.
Thank you, Lu.
Yeah, thanks, Trace. Good. Some good articles there. Nothing too depressing today.
No, I give a message to make them not too depressing, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, no, some good stories. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks for the chat. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.